So recently somebody asked me what settings I use for my PC Macs. Here are the settings. I use Simplify3D as a slicer. Highly recommend it. The amount of control you have over your 3D print is amazing. So I'm running a 1.75mm filament on a heavily modified Ultimaker 2, and these are my recommended settings. Now, I'm currently messing around with the retraction and ooze, so you know those are what I'm using at the moment. But you know, that's just very dependent on the machine you're using. Extrusion multiplier here, I'm using 0.92 filament. The diameter of filament. The diameter of the print heads there. I mean, that's basically all the settings you need to look at. But I'll go through all of these so you can have a look at what I'm using. Outline perimeter shells, I would never use one normally. Always use two. It just allows your print to hide the seams and joins of each print better. But current print I've got on there is one. My raft settings. Again, I tend to use a raft for Polymax. Never normally use a raft. The raft seems to break away really nicely on Simplify3D, so you've got no problems there, and you get insane build adhesion with the Polymaker build take. So much so that you need to use a Stanley knife to try and separate the two. It's, I would say, almost too much bond adhesion. But I don't think there's anything you can do about that. Just go through the rest of these, just in case somebody, and you can always pause it if you need to. Temperature is the main thing, I guess. Build plate or bed temperature is 80 degrees. Find that works very nicely. That's what they recommend. And temperature, they recommend anywhere in between 250 and 270. I've gone at 270. Obviously, you want to make sure your head nozzle fans, so the print head fans, are off. Because if you have them on, one, you don't need it because it's such a high temperature print. You'll find it prints like ABS a little bit. You get good separation of support material. It separates quite easily, and also small parts print quite well because heat's dissipated much faster. So PLA, if you're printing a small part, when you print it hot and without fans, it all distorts and goes mushy, and you just get horrible finish. This doesn't have that problem, so you don't need the fans on. And if you do have the fans on, you can get very poor layer adhesion. So I would recommend having the fans off, and that to 270. Cooling, ignore that. G code, I mean, that's I got start script. I've been messing around with my machine, so I've got PID values in there at the start to which is basically to monitor, to regulate the temperature control of the print head, because I'm actually running a 60 watt heated cartridge instead of the standard, I think, is 25 on the Ultimaker. So I can get up to 400 degrees easily with my print head, and with full fans on it, maintains it very nicely. Speeds, these are speed settings I've been using. PC Max seems to be working quite well. Probably for the Ultimaker 2, probably movement speed, you could bump that up a little bit more. But I've used 50, just because then you get 100% speed for the support, but then you get a lower speed for your outline on your top, so you get a good finish. Let's see what else we've got in here. Bridging settings, actually, I find that this works quite well. So your bridge speed, multiplier 45%, extrusion multiplier 35%. It acts to stretch the filament across the bridge, and then when that filament cools, it shrinks more, which pulls the sagging bridge first line back up. So I do find that works very well. That setting as well works very well for PLA. And that's about it, I think.